All right, everybody, we are back this time with UFC Vegas 81, Yusuff versus Barboza in the main event in the featherweight division between rising contender in Super Sadiq Yusuff taking on a former top contender in the lightweight division coming off of a tremendous knockout over Billy Quarantillo in Edson Jr. Barboza. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, everybody, back at it again. Last week, I don't think I was the only one, but no excuses. Awful prediction week. I am going to give myself a little bit of credit, though, because I did not watch tape for that card. I barely watched any tape. I kind of just went off memory, went off what I knew. And the one thing I've learned is you have to watch tape. You can get away with not watching tape on the Contender Series. You cannot at the highest level in the UFC. So this week, I did my homework. I watched some tape, not as much as I normally watch, but I did watch tape on about every single fight we're going to break down, except for the co-main event. So I'm just going to try to go off memory on that one. But one thing I do know is that from now on, I'm not betting women's MMA. There have been a few times where I've sniped some good unders or taken a few underdogs. You know, like I'm not saying I'm the worst women's MMA predictor of all time, but I don't do the best predicting women's MMA. It's never been my strongest suit. I'm better with breaking down the men's fights, breaking down the men's divisions, you know, having more tape, having more time to look at tendencies and favorite combinations and things like that. So from now on, no women's MMA betting because Montana De La Rosa killed like almost every parlay I had this past weekend. I thought for sure she'd beat Aldrich, and if you tailed with the underdog, you know, had a great night. I did bet Pfeiffer by sub round 2, round 3 at plus 2,000. However, I paired it with LGO sub round 2, round 3. I believe I got that from John Kelly over on YouTube, or his little articles that he writes. I like the guy. I think he's a very good predictor, and I'm not gonna blame him for getting it wrong. I know there's some people who would come on here and be like, "Oh, screw that guy." Nah, man, it's MMA. That's what happens. I should have just played it by itself. $10 would have paid 200, and it is what it is. But $10 on that 2-leg parlay paid 2,500. So lose $10. Or gain 2,500. Sometimes you get a little greedy, and I feel like that's what happened this past weekend. I got greedy, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. We're not going to break down the whole card. I'm going to be honest. I'm only going to break down one prelim, so I'm going to skip most of the prelims, and then I will break down the entire main card for you. We'll kick it off in the prelims in the headliner between Darren the Damage Elkins taking on downtown TJ Brown. Elkins coming in 27-11, 17 victories, 10 defeats on the side of downtown TJ Brown. Brown had that win over Eric Silva, where I believe he was a decent-sized underdog. He might have been the favorite, but I feel like I heard a lot of people taking Eric Silva in that fight. He was able to get that job done. I believe he won via submission. He went in against Bill Elgio. I backed TJ Brown as an underdog against Elgio. I think he was plus 180, plus 190, and he got dropped. It was close in the beginning, competitive on the feet, but eventually got dropped and then got submitted by Bill Elgio. We took Elgio over Alexander Hernandez this last weekend, and it looked pretty good. It was a good bet. But yeah, looking at Elkins versus TJ Brown, I mean, Elkins has taken so much damage in his career. I mean, his nickname is literally The Damage. He has it tattooed on his chest. And this guy is not the cleanest technically. He doesn't have the best defense, but he's durable. He's determined. And you can hit this guy with the kitchen sink and, he doesn't really go down. Now, he got finished by Cub Swanson. He's been finished in other fights as well, but he has that embrace the grind style. I know he knocked out Mirsad Bektic in that crazy comeback win, years ago with that head kick up against the cage, and he folded him. But Elkins is not known for having the best punching power. Elkins is not known for having knockout power. Elkins is known for forward pressure, in your face, push you against the cage, get takedowns, look for submissions, look for ground and pound, and he's just going to look to tire you out. Now, I do think that TJ Brown does have some cardio issues, and that going into the midpoint of the second round and into the third round, TJ Brown could get taken down, could get controlled, could get out wrestled, and could get submitted. So, if you're on the side of Elkins, you probably think forward pressure, survive the early storm because Brown is powerful. He's technical. He has decent shots on the feet. His defense isn't the best, but he can throw, and he can throw heavy power into his combinations. He's a decent wrestler as well with some good jiu-jitsu in his own right, but the places we've seen him struggle are later in fights with the cardio, and sometimes his durability isn't the best. I think Elkins and I feel like the wrestling between Elkins and Brown is going to kind of cancel out because they both can wrestle. They both have good scrambles. But I am going to side with the younger fighter in downtown TJ Brown here. I just feel like he has more left in the tank. He has more to give the UFC and MMA than Darren Elkins has at this point in his career. Elkins is good. Elkins is tough. Elkins is durable. You can never 100% count on a fighter like Darren Elkins because, like I said, he is that guy where he can be down and find a way to win. But I just feel like those moments are going to be few and far between at this point in his career. And with the power, explosiveness of TJ Brown on the feet, with his wrestling in his own right, the grappling, the top control, the only thing I really worry about is his cardio and, him getting broken and breaking down towards that midpoint of the second round and into the third. But I do think Brown should be the favorite here. I'm surprised he's a 2-1 favorite. I was thinking maybe -160, -170, but I am going to side with downtown TJ Brown here. I think he gets the win via decision. I could see him TKOing Darren Elkins. I don't think he gets a submission, but I could see him ground and pound TKOing him. I could see him catching him with a big shot on the feet and cracking him. He's had his chin cracked in the past. He's been rocked multiple times, has Elkins. And I think eventually, there is that point where you just can't take a shot anymore. And TJ Brown might be the guy because he does have good technical boxing, decent footwork, and can throw combinations and has power behind his punches. But I am going to think that he probably just makes it the full distance. I could see a ground and pound TKO as well, but I'm going to go with the favorite in downtown TJ Brown to get back on the winning track after that loss to Bill Elgio. And I'm going to go Brown by 29-28 unanimous decision. But like I said, looking at the odds, -192, -200. I think TJ Brown is a decent parlay piece, but I wouldn't tie all of your plays to him going into this weekend because he is a guy that I could see, shitting the bed later on during the fight, down the stretch, midpoint of the second into the third. Maybe Elkins can come back, land the power, break him with the pressure, and eventually get him out of there, or just have a really big third round to the point where maybe the fight goes to a draw. If he loses the first two, gets 10-8 in round, or gets a 10-8 in round 3. But I am going to side with Brown here as the favorite. All right, moving on, we've got the main card opener and the fight that I'm probably the most excited to talk about between Christian Rodriguez taking on Cameron Saaiman. Saaiman, undefeated in the UFC, undefeated as a pro in mixed martial arts at 9-0. Christian Rodriguez, 9 victories, 1 defeat. Coming off that big upset victory as a 2-1 underdog against Raul Rosas Jr., where a lot of people just expected him to give up his back, get choked, and get submitted. And then you saw what Raul Rosas Jr. just did against Terrence Mitchell, TKOing him in the first round. We backed Raul Rosas Jr. by TKO at, I think, +300, +320. So that was a good night for us. But looking at Cameron Saaiman versus Christian Rodriguez, I would say this is a fight do not bet on. Do not bet on this fight. I think that this is two up-and-comers. This is a guy where Christian Rodriguez has more experience. Even though the records are close, he has more UFC experience, and UFC experience does pay dividends and does play a factor when breaking down fights. Saaiman is a decent striker. He mainly fights out of that southpaw stance. He's looking to land that jab, looking to follow up with the left cross. Has a beautiful right switch kick to the body, can throw left head kicks, spinning wheel kicks, question mark kicks. He mixes it up very well. Very good outside low kick going up against the same stance fighter. Opposite stance fighter. In the orthodox fighter, he likes to attack that lead outside low kick and then chop the inside. But usually it's lead outside low kick off of like that lead hook, and then he'll fire with that left body kick. He'll fire with the left head kick. He mixes up his kicks very well, and that is one thing I think he has an advantage in this fight over Rodriguez in, is his overall kicking activity and his kicking technique. I think the best options for Saaiman to win this fight is going to be with the kicking games, or kicking technique, mixing up his kicks. I think the boxing might be ever so slightly edged toward Cameron Saaiman, but I do think Rodriguez is technical in his own right with his boxing. He's calm, he's patient, he gets on that front foot, and he can put his combinations together. He's probably better in the clinch. I would say Rodriguez is better inside the clinch with elbows, framing off, uppercuts, looking for takedowns, stuffing the opponent's takedowns, and spinning and taking his back. The biggest thing I like for Rodriguez is his calm demeanor, his calmness, his ability to stay patient even in bad spots. Like against Rosas Jr., he gave up his back. Rosas jumped on his back. I mean, he pretty much had that choke in, except Rodriguez kept his chin down. I mean, he was on his back, jumped on his back in the body triangle, almost got the rear naked choke and was able to get out and then eventually slow down Rosas Jr. And I don't think Rosas Jr. and Cameron Saaiman are the same fighter. I would say Cameron Saaiman has better striking than Rosas Jr. So he's more of a threat on the feet against Rodriguez than Rosas was. But at the same time, I love the calmness of Rodriguez in the storm. And I think that's what makes the difference here. Saaiman is good. Saaiman has power. Saaiman has good technical kicking. Like I said, I think he's going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage with his boxing combinations and the way he tries to set up that left hand. I think Christian Rodriguez is going to be looking for combinations and is going to be able to slip his punches inside the wide looping punches of Saaiman. The one thing I will say is that looking at both of these fighters, they both are good grapplers, but I do give the wrestling advantage to Rodriguez because I feel like he uses his wrestling offensively off of using it defensively first. He will stop the opponent's takedowns, sprawl, keep his back to the cage so the opponent can't take the back. If they do take the back, he'll be patient and calm, and then eventually get the opponent to tire out, find ways to get on top and get into an offensive position off of him being defensively responsible from the opponent's mistakes. And that is where I think the biggest difference is here. Saaiman kind of is a little bit overzealous and a little bit wild, kind of like his training partner in Dricus Du Plessis, and it works for guys who have big power like Dricus. I don't think it works for Saaiman at the highest level. I don't think it works against a fighter as seasoned, as durable, as experienced as a Christian Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez is going to be able to find openings in the scrambles against Saaiman. Now, can Saaiman jump on his back, potentially submit him? Yes. Does Saaiman have good jiu-jitsu? Does he have good top control? Yeah, absolutely. But against a fighter who's so calm, against a fighter who stays patient in the scrambles, against a fighter who finds ways to get on top and can get out of really bad positions and then have it work to his advantage by using his offense after using his defense, I like that again about Christian Rodriguez. I just feel like Rodriguez is a little bit cleaner in the boxing and a little bit cleaner in the scrambles and the top position control. I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez here. I've never picked against Cameron Saaiman. I did fade Rodriguez against Rosas in that fight. I don't want to fade Rodriguez again. I don't think he's a guy to fade. It's a close fight. Like I said, I wouldn't 100% bet on him. I think he's like minus 130, minus 140 as a favorite, but I am going to take C-Rod. I'm going to take Christian Rodriguez to defeat Cameron Saaiman via, I'm going to go a third round ground and pound TKO. I think eventually he just slows down Saaiman. We've seen Saaiman get clipped on the feet because of his wild style, because of the fact that he kind of leans forward on his punches and will lean forward and kind of overcommit on his takedown attempts that can lead into knees like we saw Rodriguez use against Rosas. I think Rosas was a good litmus test for a fighter in Saaiman for Rodriguez, but like I said, Saaiman is a lot more technical on the feet, so it's going to be a little bit more dangerous, but I do favor the composure, the scrambling ability, and the overall, calmness under fire with Christian Rodriguez. So give me Christian Rodriguez or Christian C-Rod Rodriguez to defeat Cameron Saaiman via third round ground and pound TKO. I could see it going decision. If you're going to bet it, I would say bet money line or bet over 1.5. If they give you the 2.5, it might be a little bit juicy. But I would say over 1.5 rounds or Christian Rodriguez on the money line would probably be my favorite play to target for this fight. But I am going to go with C-Rod for that third round TKO. All right. Up next, you've got Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel Lacerda. This fight just took place a few weeks ago, and it got deemed a no contest. Sorry, guys. It got called a no contest because, Chairez had that standing Darce choke. It was like I think it was a standing anaconda choke, and then the ref checked the arm. He was there. Then he dropped his arm. It went limp. The ref didn't check it a second time, and then they stopped the fight. But you saw right when the choke broke, Lacerda was up. He was running around, whatever, and saying like, no. So it was called a no contest. But looking at this fight, I do not agree with the line, man. I think Lacerda was plus 180 going into the last one, and now he's plus 245. It's almost a complete flip. He was still the underdog, but I don't agree with this. I mean, what did you really see from that last fight? Yeah, he probably was going to submit him, but you can't say 100% because if Lacerda just stayed calm, stayed patient, and was able to get out of that choke, maybe Chairez burns his arms out. Maybe Chairez gets tired, and you saw Lacerda be able to get that head on the inside single dump very easily. And maybe it was because Chairez was going to look to attack the neck. Maybe it was because he was going to try to attack a Darce choke as he fell off to the one side. You know, that is possible, but Lacerda got the takedowns early, or without much resistance, even though the fight ended in round 1. I do think later in the fight, it definitely goes to Chairez, but we also saw that Daniel Lacerda was staying patient. He was staying calm, which is something that we needed to see because he was always very, very solid. He's the best 0-4-1 fighter that the UFC has ever seen. He's always been technical. He's always been explosive. He has spinning wheel kicks, head kicks, good punches down the middle, good straight punches, good uppercuts, can really throw heavy, dangerous shots on the feet, and he does have jiu-jitsu and grappling. It's just been he gets too excited, gets overzealous, and, you know, blows his cardio gas tank later on in the fights, and then that's when he starts to slow down and get crushed. I do think Chairez is live later in the fight, but I do not think at minus 305 you back Edgar Chairez. I don't know what you saw aside from the submission attempts that make you think like, oh, Chairez is going to dominate here, because when you give somebody a minus 300, you're pretty much saying they're going to win 75-85% of the time. And I just don't see that, man. I really don't. I don't think Chairez wins this fight that many times with the technical striking of Lacerda, with the fact that he was patient in his last performance against Chairez, even though it was a no contest. He was more patient. He was letting the fight come to him. Yeah, his defense wasn't the best, but I mean, at these odds, man, I'm going to back Lacerda again. I picked him in the last one. I'm going to pick him again. I know it might not be the smartest pick. I definitely wouldn't parlay Lacerda unless you want to do like a crazy parlay for the odds. But I am going to go with Lacerda, man. I think he catches Chairez, and I think he knocks him out. I think we might see a case of Chairez coming into this fight a lot more confident, but a little too overconfident, and giving himself openings to be exploited, or giving Lacerda openings which he can exploit. And I kind of see that being the case here. I'm going to go with the plus 245. The odds are just ridiculous to me. I don't really see what you saw in the last fight to give those odds, aside from the fact that he probably was going to submit him, but you know, you never know. He was just staying patient and staying calm. He wasn't going crazy. He wasn't squirming. He didn't fall to the ground when the choke got released. He wasn't gasping for air. So, you know, you can't really make a whole lot of assumptions based on that referee stoppage. But I am going to go with Lacerda. I do think he's the better fighter. I do think skill for skill, he's the better fighter. I think Chairez has the better cardio. I think Chairez is live second and third round. But I just feel like Lacerda can get this done, man. He needs a win. He was more patient in the last one, which is a good look going into this one. He stayed more patient. He didn't overcommit. He didn't blow his gas tank early. And yeah, I'm going to go with Daniel Lacerda. So give me Daniel Lacerda, or Daniel da Silva Lacerda, whatever his name is, to win. I'm going to go via a second round TKO. I think he's going to catch him with a body kick, hurt him, catch him with a shot up top, and get him out of there. So Daniel Lacerda, second round TKO victory over Edgar Chairez. All right, up next on the card, you've got a middleweight battle between Andre Petroski taking on Michel Demolidor Pereira. I'm going to be honest. Michel Pereira and Andre Petroski, this is a tough fight to break down, because you have grappler versus striker, and that's exactly what we're getting here. Petroski is going to be the better top positional control fighter. He's going to get the takedowns. He's going to have better top control. He's going to be able to out-grapple and probably submit or TKO Michel Pereira if the fight does get into his wheelhouse on the mat. However, if the fight stays on the feet, Pereira is going to be quicker. He's going to have better movement. Better distance control, better distance management, and the ability to explode and, exploit the defensive irresponsibility and the defensive holes of Andre Petroski. Petroski does get tired down the stretch. If he shoots for takedowns over and over and over again, it is going to be difficult for him to get those takedowns later in the fight if Pereira is able to get back up, if Pereira is able to survive the onslaught, survive the submission attempts. And, eventually he'll probably get TKO'd late in the fight if he can stop the takedowns. But, like we said, if Petroski gets the takedowns, he will get on top. He will probably ground and pound, and he probably will submit Michel Pereira. I think this is a fight where you back Petroski by sub or Pereira by knockout in terms of a betting perspective. I could see Petroski getting a decision if he's able to just slow down Pereira enough, get enough takedowns, get the top control time. I could see it getting into a decision where the takedowns and the top control and the submission attempts of Petroski win him the fight over the striking success that Pereira has. But this is a middleweight fight, and Michel Pereira is a 170-pound fighter. And the biggest difference in going up in weight from any weight class, but I'll say 170 to 185, yes, the striking power is a big difference. But the grappling, the top control, and the top pressure from a heavier, stronger fighter is where the difference is going to be made. So if Petroski's able to get those takedowns, if he's able to get into the top position against Pereira, I believe he will be able to submit or finish Pereira from the top position. He's moving up in weight. Michel Pereira's a 170er. He's going to be faster. He's going to be quicker. He's going to be more explosive on the feet. Petroski does get hit. I do think Pereira has the opportunity to knock out Petroski, but I do think moving up in weight, that weight difference and the strength advantage that Petroski's going to have with his already technical grappling, jiu-jitsu, and top control advantage, scrambling advantage, positional advantages that he's going to have against Pereira on the ground, it's going to make Pereira kind of a fish out of water if Petroski does get those takedowns. If he doesn't get the takedowns, Pereira's probably going to knock him out. So you have to think, what side do you back? Do you back the striking power, finesse, footwork, explosiveness, movement, and, lateral in and out movement of Pereira? Or do you back the grappling, forward pressure, submission game, top control, scrambling ability, and control, like positional control advantages that Petroski is going to have? Based on the fact that Pereira is moving up in weight, I know this fight is short notice, but I'm going to back the grappler here against the striker. I'm going to back Petroski. I think he's plus 100, plus 105 as the underdog. I don't think he's a great parlay piece, but I do think he's a decent bet. I would say Petroski by submission or Petroski on the money line is probably going to be your best bet. If you're backing Michel Pereira, you probably just back him by knockout because he's not going to submit Petroski. I don't see it. I mean, I've seen him get submissions in the past, but I don't think he submits a grappler the caliber of Petroski, and I don't think he wins a decision. So I would say if you're backing Michel Pereira, you'd probably take Pereira by knockout. If you're backing Petroski, you'd be Petroski by sub or double chance method of victory sub or decision. But I am going to side with the much better grappler here. I think that he's going to get in close. He's going to push Pereira up against the cage. Pereira does have a 94% takedown defense rate, but again, he is moving up in weight from 170 to 185. So how much is that strength advantage of Petroski, the grappling advantage, the wrestling advantage, going to take control and show its head during the fight? So I'm going to go with Petroski to have, some sketchy moments early on, but get that takedown, get the top control, and get the submission. So give me the underdog at plus 105 and Andre Petroski to defeat Michel Pereira via second round arm triangle choke submission. Up next, we move to a battle in the bantamweight division, a firefight, a great fight between top 15 ranked fighters and the number 13 ranked Jonathan Martinez taking on the number 14 ranked Adrian Yanez. Yanez coming off that knockout loss in round 1 to Rob Font. He tried to box the boxer, and it didn't work out. He was getting caught with the jab, getting caught with the 1-2, getting caught with the 1-2 switch to, walking forward into southpaw from the orthodox stance. Was getting caught with that big right uppercut. It was like an uppercut or hook hybrid, and then eventually got caught again with that big right hook. Dropped, and then TKO'd in round 1. He played with fire a little bit too long. Going up against Jonathan Martinez, Adrian Yanez is going to have the speed and the boxing advantage in this fight. The hand speed, the boxing technique, using the jab, 5, 6, 7 punch combinations. He's going to have the advantage there. Jonathan Martinez is going to have the kicking advantage. We've seen Yanez go up against kickers in the past. Even the win against Tony Kelly, even though it was in the first round, He was getting hit with some body kicks. He was getting hit with some teep kicks, and he is a little bit susceptible to kicks. We saw him get head kicked by Randy Costa. Was getting kind of chopped up and pieced up with the kicks more than the punches, and that's really where the damage from Costa accrued on the face of Adrian Yanez and on the body until he was able to stop him with that body shot and then another rip up top. Martinez is going to be the more powerful kicker. Martinez is going to be the better outside fighter. The better inside fighter is going to be Yanez in the boxing range. The clinch range, I think, might be a little bit 50-50, but I would probably give the advantage in the clinch to Jonathan Martinez. I feel like he's probably going to be a little better in the over-unders, better in the double underhooks, pushing Adrian Yanez up against the cage and trying to, get control time. I do think he will be the stronger fighter, but I think the technical boxing and the power in the hands of Yanez is going to be the biggest disadvantage for Jonathan Martinez in this fight. We saw against Said Nurmagomedov, sometimes he was getting clipped with big punches by throwing his kicks. He was leaving himself open on some kicks and getting clipped. And I think that could be very similar to what Adrian Yanez does, because we saw him do that against Tony Kelly. He was throwing kicks, leaving himself open on body kicks or low kicks, and then Yanez was bracing and countering or stepping in and countering. I think we see a very similar approach here against Jonathan Martinez, even though he is a southpaw. So it's going to be southpaw versus orthodox. We're going to be looking for the outside foot positioning, the lead left foot of Yanez on the outside of the lead right foot of Martinez, which is going to open up that back power left kick to the body. I think inside left low kicks, like we saw Martinez showcase against Cub Swanson, the left body kicks, and then trying to mix it up with the hands is going to be the game plan. But I think eventually Yanez is going to be able to find that distance and range. He's going to be able to find that timing, and he's going to be able to step in on those kicks and land his beautiful boxing combinations on the chin of Jonathan Martinez and eventually get him out of there. Now, Martinez is tough. He is durable, but he has been knocked out a few times in the past. Yanez just got knocked out by Rob Font, but I think Martinez would get knocked out by Font as well. And we've seen him get rocked or clipped in his fights before, just like the Randy Costa fight, but he came back to win. I just have a little bit more faith in the technical ability, the speed, and the boxing of Adrian Yanez than I do with Martinez being able to keep it at kicking range and keep Adrian Yanez away from him long enough to win a decision. I don't think Martinez is going to knock out Adrian Yanez. We've seen him knock out fighters before. We've seen him stop fighters like Cub Swanson with low kicks. I could see him attacking with those low kicks, but I don't think he stops Yanez with calf kicks or low kicks. Even though I do think the check right hook, the straight left, the lead outside low kick against the orthodox fighter, the left power back body kick is going to be the weapons that we see Martinez use. Staying on the outside, trying to angle off to his lead side all the time, pop that left body kick, straight left, right hook. But I think eventually Yanez is going to counter one of those big kicks with a combination. Fire that right hand, fire that left hook, fire that right uppercut. He's going to catch Martinez on the chin, and he's going to get him out of there. I'm not super confident in the finish, but I do see Yanez's hands being able to catch Martinez and get him out of there. I wouldn't back inside the distance, but I'm going to take Adrian Yanez as the favorite to defeat Jonathan Dragon Martinez via a second round knockout. I think he's just going to crash the pocket off one of those kicks of Martinez, even though they are very quick, they are very powerful, and he's going to rip to the body, come back up top with a big shot, and knock out the Dragon. So give me Adrian Yanez via second round knockout over Jonathan Martinez. All right, now we go into the co-main event of the evening in the women's flyweight division. This is the fight I did not tape. I did not watch tape on, so you probably don't want to take my opinion on this one. But it's a closely lined fight. Minus 130, number 9 ranked Jennifer Maia. Had some decent moments against Valentina Shevchenko. Got her back, almost submitted her. Not almost submitted her, but had some control. Got some takedowns. Going up against Viviane Araujo, who comes in as the number 11 ranked flyweight in her division as well. She is coming off of a decision loss, I believe, in her last fight. Let me check. She lost via decision to Amanda Rivas. Prior to that fight, she lost via decision to Alexa Grasso. Before that, beat Andrea Lee via decision. Lost to Caitlin Chukagian via decision. Beat Roxanne Modafferi via decision. Looking at Jennifer Maia's last fight, She is coming off a decision win over Casey O'Neill. O'Neill is a very, very solid fighter. That was her first loss in pro MMA. She had a decision win over Marina Moroz, and then a decision loss to Manon Fiorot, and then a decision loss to Caitlin Chukagian. I'm going to be honest, I think that the wrestling, the grappling, the top control of Jennifer Maia is where her biggest advantages lie in this fight. I think on the feet, the speed, the technical ability, the kickboxing, and the boxing of Viviane Araújo are going to give Maia some trouble. I think Jennifer Maia is going to have some issues, staying on the feet and exchanging with Araújo. But the one thing we do know is that if Maia can get those takedowns, if she can use her wrestling, she can use her top control, she can use her good boxing. She's not a great kicker, but she has good hands. She has good ability to put her boxing combinations together. If she can get in close, make it dirty, make it nasty, I do think she can, slow down Araújo, who we've seen does have cardio issues. If she can't get you out of there or can't fully control the fight, she will slow down towards the midpoint of the second round into the third round. So Viviane Araújo, I think, is the better fighter overall, but I think the more gritty fighter, the tougher fighter over 15 minutes is going to be Jennifer Maia. And really, sorry guys, I was chewing on some gum. Probably wasn't the best idea, but Viviane Araújo, I feel like, has more advantages in this fight. And sometimes I side with the more technical fighter, the fighter who looks better from a technical perspective. Usually I like to go on that side, but that doesn't always work against a fighter in Jennifer Maia. Like they're just tough, they're durable, they walk forward, they get in your face, they make it dirty, and sometimes even if the other fighter is technically better, the less technically seasoned fighter can kind of break the opponent, can kind of get in their head, wear them out, let them expose their cardiovascular issues and slow down from that point. But going into this fight, man, it's really a coin flip for me, and I think the odds will showcase that. I don't really lean one side heavy, but tough. It's a tough fight to pick. It really is. I'm going to go with Araújo. I'm going to go with the underdog, Viviane Araújo, to win via decision. I just feel like she's going to have more output. I feel like she's going to land the bigger shots. I feel like she probably can hang in the grappling with Maia. I think the third round probably goes to Maia, but I'll say Viviane Araújo has the bigger moments in the first two rounds. But I could just as easily see Jennifer Maia winning this fight. So I'll go Viviane Araújo via 29-28 unanimous decision. But it's not my most confident play at all. I'm not super confident in it, but I will go with the underdog in Araújo to get the job done via decision. All right, and now we get to the main event of the evening between the number 11 and 13 ranked featherweights in Super Sadiq Yusuff taking on Edson Jr. Barboza. Yusuff comes in 13-2, taking on the veteran in Edson Barboza, coming in with 23 victories and 11 defeats. Barboza is coming off of that knockout win over Billy Quarantillo. We picked Barboza in that fight. We picked him by knockout. He was able to time Billy Q rushing in on that side stance with that knee right up the middle and knock him out cold on a historically very durable fighter in Billy Quarantillo. So that's a good look on Barboza. Barboza had that knockout win over Shane Burgos, who's over in the PFL now. He's done decently well at featherweight. Has a win over Makwan Amir Khani. Should have gotten a decision win over Dan Ige. However, they gave the decision to Ige. So technically, Barboza should have wins over Billy Q, Shane Burgos, Dan Ige, and Makwan Amir Khani at featherweight. He lost to Giga Chikadze. I was really hoping we got Barboza versus Cater, but Barboza versus Yusuff is a great fight. Yusuff is a very solid boxer, but he has very good low kicks as well. I don't think you want to trade low kick for low kick against Barboza, who has some of the best low kicks in the division and in the UFC regardless. But, Yusuff can chop very well from that southpaw stance. He can chop the inside low kick, chop the outside low kick, find a home for that straight left hand. He's very good at countering the opponent's cross with a cross of his own. He'll kind of counter the cross, come over the top. He'll let the opponent throw it, and then he'll come over the top as they try to retract their shots. He's got very good counters in that regard. Good forward movement, doesn't make too many mistakes when it comes to overextending or overcommitting on his punches. And I do think he has a grappling and wrestling advantage in this fight, whether it's inside the clinch, whether it's getting takedowns. We've seen him use jiu-jitsu when he submitted Don Shainis. I believe he got him with a guillotine choke in the first round of that fight. Yusuff's a very well-rounded fighter. I just think he's a fighter who isn't... he's a very well-rounded fighter, but I feel like he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. He lost a fight against Arnold Allen. Allen was able to catch him with a straight left hand as he held his glove, boom, caught him as he tried to move away, and then he also caught him with a good head kick from the southpaw stance behind the left cross, which wobbled him, had him on shaky legs, but he didn't get knocked down there. But he did get that one knockdown with the straight left cross. And, that's not a bad loss. I mean, look how close the fight between Arnold Allen and Max Holloway was. If anything, I think that's a tip of the cap to Sodiq Yusuff in that fight, that he was able to have it be so close. Because without those knockdowns, I feel like it was a very close fight and a coin flip of a fight, but those knockdowns are what sealed it for Arnold Allen. And I did back Sodiq Yusuff in that one. So I'm a big fan of Sodiq. I like his style. I like his forward pressure. I like his technical prowess. I like his ability to land big shots on the feet. I like his boxing. I like his ability to go to his wrestling and grappling and inside the clinch, be able to kind of push the opponents up against the cage if he's falling short in the kicking range. We saw him go kick for kick with Alex Caceres as well, but he was also able to close that distance off, really chop those inside low kicks against the orthodox fighter in Alex Caceres. I believe Sodiq is a southpaw, and then Caceres was the orthodox fighter. He was able to chop those inside low kicks, really just tear up that lead leg. His calf kicks are a big issue. Like I said, you don't really want to go kick for kick with Barboza. The only person I've ever really seen go kick for kick with Barboza, even though it was short-lived, was Justin Gaethje. Giga Chikadze did go kick for kick with Barboza. He did get him out of there. I just think I'm going to side with the younger fighter, the fighter with less miles on them. I feel like Yusuff is technically good enough to stand with Barboza, but I do think we see him use his wrestling and grappling in the third, fourth, and fifth. I think we see a late finish from Sodiq. I could easily see it going to decision. Barboza's quick, he's durable, he's tough. We've seen Yusuff get hurt in the past, but we also saw Yusuff go to war with Mike Beast Boy Davis on the Contender Series. That's a Contender Series fight that I feel like doesn't get talked about anymore, but it used to get talked about all the time. One of the best fights in Contender Series history between Mike Beast Boy Davis and Super Sodiq Yusuff. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and give that a look. I actually interviewed Mike Davis on my podcast as well. You can find that on my YouTube channel at the same name as the podcast, in the Touch 'Em Up podcast. But I think that the better technical kickboxer, without a doubt, is Barboza. The more explosive fighter is Barboza. The fighter with the bigger power is Barboza. But I think the more well-rounded fighter, the fighter who can go to different avenues if one isn't working very well, the better grappler, the better wrestler, the better fight IQ fighter, or the fighter with the better IQ, I think is Super Sodiq Yusuff. I do worry a little bit about his durability because we have seen him get clipped and hurt and rocked, but he's always able to come back. You don't want to get clipped against Barboza, who's fast, explosive, powerful, and just a vicious fighter who can literally knock you out with one shot. But based on the fact that I've seen Sodiq, really find his openings, and then if the striking is too close, he can go to the wrestling, he can go to the grappling, he has jiu-jitsu, he can push his opponents up against the cage. I saw him I believe he knocked out Andre Feely. Maybe he went to decision with him, though. Let me check that out. Hold on, guys. I'm looking it up right now. Okay, it was a decision. So he didn't knock him out. He won via decision. It was Gabriel Benitez I was thinking about. He knocked out Gabriel Benitez, beat Sheymar Moraes via decision, beat Andre Feely via decision, lost to Arnold Allen, but then came back and got a win over Don Shainis and Alex Caceres. And, Caceres is a very, very tough fighter. This is a close one. It really is. It's a great main event. I'm really looking forward to this fight. But I do have to side with Sodiq Yusuff, in my opinion. I know Barboza's quick. I know he's explosive. I know he can knock you out with one shot. But I think over 5 rounds, with the fight IQ that we've seen Yusuff be able to showcase, like I said, his ability to fall back on the grappling, his really solid boxing, his good counters over the punches of his opponents before they bring their guard back, ability to rip to the body, And I just think his overall game is a little bit better than Barboza's, especially at this point in both of their careers. I feel like Yusuff is on the upward trajectory where Barboza is on the downward trajectory, even though he did knock out Billy Q with that knee early in that fight. But give me Super Sadiq Yusuff to win this fight via a late finish. I think he gets a late TKO, either ground and pound or on the feet. I'm going to go with Super Sadiq Yusuff to defeat Edson Barboza via 4th round TKO. If you look at the line, Yusuff is the favorite, which I'm actually kind of surprised by. He's at -162 to a +136 for Barboza. But yeah, give me the favorite in Super Sadiq Yusuff, the number 11 ranked featherweight, to beat Edson Jr. Barboza via a 4th round TKO.